They called it a precision deployment, which, in Zarkeen military dialect, apparently translated to drop her like a space turd and hope she splats on something useful. Staff Sergeant Kara Voss didn't so much land on Veltrack 9 as she was launched there, inside a glorified tin can with fewer safety features than a toddler's tricycle. The drop pod slammed into the jungle like a meteor with anger issues, skidding across vines, pulverizing an unlucky tree beast, and digging a trench that would later be mistaken for an ancient war relic. The moment the hatch hissed open and a cloud of steam hissed out, Kara coughed, stepped out barefoot into ankle-deep mud and muttered, "Lovely. The jungle's sweating on me." She looked up at the dense green canopy, alive with chirping insectoids and something that sounded suspiciously like it had teeth, and sighed. Great. Space mosquitoes. If I come back with a third arm, I'm suing someone. The Zarkeen had sent detailed reports predicting her demise within 48 hours. Some said she'd be swallowed by a fungus lion. Others believed her tiny human lungs would clog up with the planet's humid spores. A few placed bets on madness by isolation, others on being eaten by rogue insurgents. Kara, however, didn't read those reports. She was too busy duct-taping her gear, stuffing jungle crackers into her mouth and muttering, "Emergency ration? Pfft, this tastes like alien depression." Somewhere high above, Zarkeen tacticians watched her signal go dark and logged the loss with all the ceremony of filing a coffee invoice. Human expired, proceeding with drone reinforcement. But by nightfall, the drones began going quiet too. The first to vanish was a recon unit stationed by a rebel supply route. The last transmission showed static, followed by a gloved hand holding up a sign. Guess who? Then silence. Day 2. A munitions depot explodes. Survivors report laughter echoing in the smoke. Surveillance finds a sticky note on a half-melted crate. Your security system is adorable. 410. Try again. Day 3. An officer's shuttle malfunctions mid-flight and crash lands in a banana grove. Cause of failure? Banana in the exhaust port. Somewhere in the foliage, Kara chewed a protein bar, watching the fireball rise. "You started it," she muttered. "I'm just here for the snacks." What Veltrack's rebels had once seen as a noble resistance became a ghost story overnight. They didn't fear death. They feared her. Something unseen, untouchable. Rumors spread faster than fire. A whisper in the jungle. A shadow with a sarcastic laugh. Rebel squads deserted. Drones reported anomalies like unauthorized snacking noises and unregistered humming. One soldier filed a report that simply read, "She left footprints on the ceiling." Zarkeen analysts called it psychological sabotage. Unsustainable long-term, one declared. His base was overrun an hour later, not by rebels, but by confusion. Tents rearranged, toilets duct-taped to ceilings, rations salted with spice levels banned by the Geneva Nebula Accords. In the middle of it all was Kara, dirty, sweating, laughing. "You know," she told a stunned rebel scout she ambushed with a coconut grenade, "this jungle's starting to grow on me." Like a rash. They found him later clinging to a tree, whispering, "She was smiling. She was smiling." Zarkeen command panicked. Stealth operatives were deployed. Praetors in shadow suits with AI targeting and emotion dampeners. Elite units designed to operate in chaos. Which was unfortunate. Kara was chaos. The first Praetor disappeared near a ravine. The second? Found wrapped in vines, armor wedged into a tree, with a knife-pinned note, "Peekaboo, Protocol Boy." The third unit activated their panic beacon. It pinged once before going dark. Command received a final image, Kara holding up a rubber chicken next to a burning crate, expression deadpan. "She fights with toys," a senior Zarkeen warlord hissed. "She is the toy," a junior officer whispered, weeping softly. They didn't understand her. They couldn't classify her. She wasn't an army. She was a freelance breakdown of morale, a one-woman horror show directed by sarcasm and vengeance. Her weapons weren't just bullets. They were the pauses before impact, the whistling in the dark, the moments of, wait, what is that ticking? Just before something exploded in your shoe. Kara didn't conquer Veltrac 9 with firepower. She dismantled the myth of Zarkeen control. And as she lay back that evening in a hammock made of vine and rebel flag, chewing her last ration bar and watching the stars through the canopy, she radioed one line back to Earth. Mission log. Jungle's a mess. Rebels are broken. Zarkeen are twitching. Send more snacks. By the 72nd hour, Veltrac 9 wasn't just a jungle moon anymore. It was a stage. And Kara Voss was the only performer anyone remembered. Rebel command posts went quiet. Not because they were destroyed, but because their soldiers were too afraid to answer calls. In one base, officers discovered every locker filled with half-deflated balloons and a single banana taped to the ceiling, inscribed with the words, "I'm watching." Paranoia took root deeper than any insurgent ideology. Zarkeen advisors scrambled to explain the exponential psychological degradation. "She's not engaging in conventional warfare," one spat during a holobrief. "She's curating a breakdown." Even the rebels, once united by righteous cause, began speaking in hushed tones of the human, as if saying her name might summon her like some cursed AI glitch. Their comms flooded with bizarre messages, recordings of jungle insects looped into rhythmic tapping, bursts of human laughter played backward, and once an audio file of Kara casually explaining how to disassemble a Zarkeen neural helmet using a spoon and bad intentions. Each new day brought a new trick. At a remote drone station, technicians found all their equipment rearranged into a smiley face. Another squad returned from patrol to discover their entire camp mirrored. Tents, supplies, everything flipped, left to right with surgical precision, as if reality had glitched and someone was screwing with the source code. Kara didn't strike like a soldier. She pranked like a vengeance goddess. Her combat reports, if Earth even received them, were handwritten notes tied to drones and rebel rats, bearing lines like Camp 17, empty, claimed by ants, blame your food hygiene. Or met your elite scouts, they scream like accountants. Meanwhile, the rebels were splintering. One faction attempted an escape to the northern ridge, only to run straight into their own traps, modified by Kara to look like they were set by a rival clan. Another tried to radio for help, but their transmission was intercepted and replaced with a loop of Kara humming the Jeopardy theme while sharpening a knife. The few captured rebels, delirious and dehydrated, babbled nonsense about a woman who could be anywhere, hanging upside down in the trees, crawling through the mud like some sarcastic predator, whistling the same 3 off-key notes before something exploded. "She doesn't kill," one muttered, rocking back and forth. "She demonstrates consequences." Even Zarkeen reinforcements began to crack. A drone pilot posted anonymously to the fleet's internal network. "I saw her, through the feed." She waved. Why would she wave? His account was deleted 2 hours later. Too late. The virus was in. Not a computer virus, of course. Kara hated those. Too impersonal. No, she preferred emotional viruses. Doubt, fear, embarrassment. Her favorite. Weapon wasn't even a blade. It was the moment just before someone realized they'd screwed up. In the middle of the jungle, she discovered a rebel psyops shack, complete with propaganda posters and morale-boosting holo recordings. By morning, those posters were defaced with glitter paint and recaptioned, "Join the rebellion. It's like camping, but with more screaming." Commanders started deserting. The few who stayed clung to procedure like a lifeline, stacking protocol binders as barricades and chanting chain of command codes like prayers. Kara found one such outpost, dismantled it without firing a shot, and left behind a flip chart of helpful suggestions, including items like, "Maybe don't broadcast your supply drops on an open frequency," and "Your encryption password is literally Zarkeen 123. Fix that." As jungle storms howled and the rebels huddled in what few secure bunkers remained, Kara roamed like a phantom, her camo gear stained with mud, her braid tied back with what looked like a strip of rebel banner, and a cracked alien headset playing Zarkeen motivational speeches she mockingly rated out loud. Inspirational level. 2 out of 10. Would not rebel for this. She slept an hour a night, if that, surviving on wild fungus, filtered puddle water, and sheer contempt for inefficiency. But her mind remained razor-sharp, her traps cruelly inventive. Every movement was deliberate. Every action had a message. Every enemy that didn't die left convinced they'd seen a specter, a glitch in reality, a mistake the jungle refused to correct. And somewhere deep in the undergrowth, Kara smiled to herself and whispered, "Still not scared of you." The jungle had stopped making noise. Birds, insects, predators, all silenced, as if Veltrac 9 itself had begun holding its breath. By the third week, even the Zarkeen's most hardened enforcers were refusing jungle assignments. High Command resorted to conscripting orbital prisoners, bribing fringe mercenaries, even deploying recon drones rigged with motivational speakers that played looped affirmations like, "Fear is illogical," and "You are the storm." Within hours, one drone returned itself, fused to a tree stump, with a sticky note on its camera lens that read, "No, you are the storm, Brenda." Zarkeen morale hit absolute vacuum. They began losing more soldiers to nervous breakdowns and desertion than to enemy fire, which ironically remained almost non-existent. Kara rarely shot. She showed up. She left footprints where no one could find her. She'd rearrange weapon lockers, so rifles were assembled backward. She'd record her own voice whispering bedtime stories and beam them into comms during midnight patrols. She wasn't just in the jungle, she was under its skin. And by then, she wasn't hiding anymore. One rebel squad swore they saw her walking openly in the fog, bare-armed, her camo jacket tied at her waist, sipping from a cracked Zarkeen canteen while dragging a tripwire grenade system through the undergrowth. She was humming, the squad. Leader sobbed during debrief. "I think it was staying alive." Those who tried to hunt her met bizarre fates. One elite Zarkeen kill team was found tangled in their own web mines, dangling from trees like festive ornaments. Another unit went radio silent, recovered later bound together with vine rope, and left stacked like firewood beside a sign that read, "Return to sender." Their only injury, profound embarrassment. Even the jungle seemed to favor her. The creatures ignored her scent. The terrain shifted like it was on her side. Biosensors malfunctioned when she passed. Stealth units, relying on heat signatures and motion scans, failed to detect her until she was already there, breathing on the back of someone's neck and whispering, "Boo." She used every trick the jungle offered. Venomous spores to make. Rebels hallucinate, sap to jam weaponry. Howling primates bribed with protein bars to act as decoys. She wasn't fighting a war. She was conducting an orchestra of chaos. Back in orbit, the Zarkeen high strategists began to panic more visibly. Their meetings devolved into arguments over protocol breaches and existential muttering about asymmetrical warfare. One commander proposed full-scale orbital cleansing of the jungle, but was shouted down. After all, their own installations were still inside. Plus, it would be admitting failure. And Zarkeen doctrine didn't have a word for that. Not yet. That was when Kara upped the tempo. No more hiding. One night, the Central Rebel Communications Hub lit up in fireworks. Not plasma fire, but literal human-made fireworks, hijacked from a trade shipment. Kara had rigged them to launch in sync with the Rebel anthem, now edited into a parody music. Loop called, "Oops, There Goes Your Base." She watched the show from a tree branch, chewing jungle jerky and rating the explosions out loud. Color palette, decent. Boom factor, needs work. Below, panicked rebels fled in all directions, many screaming at shadows. In the chaos, Kara slipped in, downloaded their internal maps, and replaced their leadership roster with a sketch. She drew of a velociraptor in a suit labeled, "Your Boss Now." She didn't just dismantle the rebellion, she erased their purpose. What had once been a movement of defiance became a mass hallucination of survival. The final straw came when a Zarkeen overseer attempted to rally the remaining troops with a speech about honor, efficiency, and tradition. Mid-speech, his holo projector fizzled out, replaced with a deep-fake video of Kara wearing a fake Zarkeen helmet and mimicking his voice with flawless mockery. Honor? Efficiency? I once got stuck in a bathroom for 2 hours because your doors require 17 security checks. I chewed through the wall. That's how I escaped. Be better. The speech went viral on underground networks. Recruits began deserting just to say they saw her. One unit defected entirely and left a message behind. We didn't sign up for this. We signed up for explosions, not whatever she is. That night, Kara stood on the wreckage of an abandoned rebel base, staring into a holo recorder as she left a message for Zarkeen High Command. Still breathing, still bored. You gonna send someone interesting? Or should I start organizing yoga sessions for your deserters? She clicked off the feed, tied her hair back, and disappeared into the mist once again. Just as the Zarkeen finally decided to deploy the Praetor Division. The galaxy's most elite, most secretive, most surgically lethal force. Protocol said, they never failed. That was before they met the jungle's new apex predator, one woman with a knife, a vine hammock, and a pathological inability to take galactic authority seriously. The Praetor Division arrived with no fanfare, just the cold hum of dropcraft slicing through the upper canopy and the unsettling silence that followed. Clad in obsidian exosuits laced with neural suppressors, equipped with emotion-dampening visors, and armed with weapons that could vaporize bone, these were the Zarkeen's answer to nightmares. Their mission brief was sterilized and clinical. Locate, isolate, neutralize subject VOS. Minimal property damage. Optional, retrieval of body for autopsy and morale purposes. Within an hour of deployment, 3 units went dark. No gunfire, no distress signal. Just a burst of static, followed by silence. When Zarkeen Command tried to boost signal telemetry, they received a single image in return. A blurry silhouette in the trees, grinning, holding a flower crown up to the camera with the caption, "For your overachievers." Panic wasn't an acceptable Zarkeen protocol, but what happened next couldn't be filed under anything else. Entire sectors of jungle, mapped down to the root, went unresponsive. Satellite imaging caught glimpses of chaos, elite operatives running in circles, tracking systems turned against their owners, biometric readings registering off-the-charts cortisol spikes. One squad was found duct-taped together on a levitating supply pallet, drifting toward a rebel outpost like a confused offering. Another was discovered hiding inside a hollowed-out tree, whispering, "She's under our skin. She lives in the pause between thoughts." Back in the jungle, Kara Voss was having the time of her life. Her traps had evolved from practical to poetic. Claymore mines attached to Zarkeen motivational hollow plaques. Trees rigged to collapse into choreographed domino patterns. One praetor discovered a comms jammer disguised as a jungle fruit and detonated it after trying to take a bite. His last words were allegedly, "What kind of fruit hisses?" Kara left no traditional battlefield. She left echoes, whispers, traces of mud-slicked boot prints that stopped mid-path. Rebel turncoats were now following her lead. Not because she asked, but because following Kara felt safer than opposing her. When the 4th Praetor commander was found babbling in a swamp about the jungle judging us all, Zarkeen High Command authorized a full emergency extraction of the remaining forces. That was when Kara made her final move. She waited until their evacuation shuttles began to descend, not to strike them down, but to escort them out, with flair. As the crafts rose into the sky, each pilot saw a massive field below, lit with glowing jungle lichen and improvised signal fires. Letters stretched across the clearing in perfectly arranged script. "Better luck next invasion." And standing, in the middle of it all, arms crossed, face smudged with ash, jungle gear ragged but proud, was Kara Voss, chewing gum and giving a one-finger salute toward the sky. She didn't chase them. She didn't need to. She had won the war 3 weeks ago. They just didn't realize it until they were running. When the last Zarkeen ship cleared orbit, Kara retrieved her sat phone from the carved-out shell of a rebel helmet, powered it on, and casually contacted Earth Command. Veltrac 9 secure. Rebels dissolved. Zarkeen in therapy. Mission cost: 1 woman, 4 protein bars, and a lot of duct tape. Recommend hazard pay and maybe a commemorative mug. Back home, analysts debated whether her campaign should be studied or quarantined. The Interstellar Concord reclassified Veltrac 9 not as a war zone but as a human tactical phenomenon zone, where alien forces were advised not to enter unless armed with sarcasm resistance implants. The Zarkeen order buried the entire incident under 10,000 pages of bureaucratic denials and quietly passed new regulations banning solo engagements with Terran personnel. As for Kara, she walked out of the jungle barefoot, dragging a Zarkeen commander tied upside down to a vine pole like a smoked roast. She passed a stunned Concord recovery team, waved cheerfully, and asked, "So, do I get a t-shirt or just another mission?" The legend of Veltrac 9 didn't end there. It grew. Whispers of the jungle ghost, the sarcastic hunter, the woman, who unmade armies with wit, wire, and weaponized mockery. And in every future war briefing across the galaxy, a new rule was added in fine print at the bottom. If the Terrans offer help, and it involves someone named Kara Voss, don't.